Hey everyone, Mystical Mark here. So this will be your weekly intuitive astrology forecast for the week of July 13th to the 19th of 2025. Before we get into any charts for this week, if you're looking for any kind of reading with me, all those links are in the description below or in my bio if you are on TikTok. All right. Now, as I say before I jump into any readings for all of my videos, my guidance has been and likely always will be, astrology is an energetic template conducive to certain things. Meaning the energetic cycles are there, the template is there. However, it's always subject to change because it's how the energy is being used. All right. So when I get things through intuitively, anything that I get through intuitively is always subject to change because yes, I'm getting it from at this point now. However, we always have that adaptability. We have ability to make free will choices, etc. And things can, of course, change. All right. Part of this guidance and the analogy that I get from the guides is that the energetic template is like a math formula, and there's variables that exist within that formula, and of course we get to control what goes into those variables. But the energetic template is there through the natural cycles, etc. Okay, it's excuse me. It's like the energy is there, the natural energetic cycles are there, but of course it is how it is used that is important, really, and that can change, of course. All right. With all that being said here, let's jump into the charts for this week. So we're going to start here on Sunday, July 13th. The only really thing that I see happening today is we're going to have this Jupiter here in Cancer in this quintile to the South Node. Now, of course, South Node in Virgo, like I said, this is relating to this letting go of these things that we once thought were practical that are no longer practical anymore. I feel like Jupiter, the feel that I initially get here is this is maybe like around like almost home stuff. I mean, Cancer rules the home life where we're kind of comfortable in that sense. And maybe there's something going on here that there's an expansion of this, of whatever. It feels like a reworking. So with Virgo, obviously Virgo likes to fix things. It feels like there's a reworking there. Of course, we have Mars coming into conjunct that South Node, maybe pay attention to that. So maybe that's what that is. There's taking action to rework something and to let go of that which is no longer serving us in maybe a practical physical sense, and to grow and expand. Of course, with a biquintile too, and quintiles, this is a lot of stuff that maybe it's like putting the creative work in behind the scenes type of energy, or something coming through behind the scenes. So that could be what's going on. It could be like typical, like the analogy of like if you want to deal with home stuff, like typical maintenance stuff that you're doing, like you're going to go out and tell it to the world that you're cleaning out your gutters or something, but it's like that kind of an energy. It's like you're not hiding it, but you're still you're doing it, but it's just one of those things that may not be really noticeable to a lot of people. You're up on the ladder cleaning out your gutters, okay? Like that's just one kind of analogy. Of course, this can go in many different ways. Cancer is also emotional. Maybe it's bringing up certain issues that need to be fixed in some way. But it feels very much surrounding home life, or things that maybe need to be nurtured in some way, that maybe these old practical ways of doing things aren't working, and we're nurturing things and taking action to shift and change stuff from a new perspective in a new way, and letting go what was no longer working. All right. Of course, let me just kind of tune into this energy and see what we feel from this. So that Jupiter quintile South Node in Virgo, what do we got? It's kind of relating to what I said. It feels very homey. Like I said, it's almost like doing chores and stuff. And of course, that could relate to the Virgo too, with that Mars there taking action to take care of those things, right? Like those detail things like cleaning and picking up stuff, whatever. That's the vibe. That's the vibe that it feels like. However, like if you don't own a house or whatever, like this could relate to other areas of your life in terms of your nurturing or fixing or doing these kinds of things in that way. Let me tune in to see if I can get anything else. Yeah, there's a very strong nurturing benevolence with that Jupiter in Cancer. And of course, Yeah, it just feels like it's taking care of things. Like you're taking care of these things that just need to be taken care of. That's the energy of that. Whether or not you're physically actually doing that, or whether that energy is being used in some other unique way for you, is kind of up to each individual scenario, right? But that's the overall energy and the vibe that I'm feeling from this transit for Sunday here, the 13th. Okay, so let's move on to Monday the 14th here. And we actually have... wow, nothing major peaking on this day. So let's move on to Tuesday the 15th then. Okay, we got a few things going on here. So we've got, where am I? We've got Venus in semi-square to Chiron in Aries. Okay. Let me just see if I can just initially tune into this energy, that Venus in semi-square to Chiron. What it feels to me is like a strong feminine communication. Like maybe a feminine type of energy, speaking out about something where we've been hurt, either from like it almost feels like in terms of a freedom level and being an independent person, independent level, that kind of a thing. Speaking out about that so that we don't get hurt in that way anymore. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting with that. Of course, Venus is in Gemini, so there is that communicative, that expression of that kind of thing. Gemini is also your local environment too, so maybe there is something going on here, that there's an energy of speaking out about something within that space too as well, in terms of where maybe we've been hurt, or there's been a lack of, let's say, sovereignty or freedom or independence in some way surrounding that, and there's been a wound there, and that needs to be healed. So something needs to be spoken up about in order to make progress in that way. Let me tune into this some more here, that Venus semi-square Chiron. Yeah, it just feels like speaking out about something. It's almost like local town political is kind of what it feels like in a way too, is the vibe that I'm getting. Like, but it feels like there's a feminine energy, whether it's like the mayor or council members or something that are discussing things. Again, this is what I'm trying to express, that the energy is of this. How it will directly relate to you is going to affect each one differently. But I'm getting intuitively what the vibe of this energy is. And of course, how it's used is going to be different for everyone. Okay, so again, it's like that council member, but it feels like a feminine energy. And it's like you're discussing things behind the scenes, like how are we going to take control and deal with these things and fix this stuff so that these people can have this and there's independence of it. It's like almost like that feminine energy standing up for what's right. So pay attention to that when I kind of burp like that. Julie Guide's saying to pay attention to that. So standing up for what's right. It says feminine energy, standing up for what's right and trying to do something to deal with it, to work with it. Like I said, it feels like if there was like the strong feminine energy was like a mayor or like a city council or town council member discussing, sorry, I don't know why my nose is so itchy, discussing like certain topics and how to fix things, and maybe where there's been a wound of like independence, freedom, sovereignty, etc. I know my arm is itchy. I don't know what is going on here. Anyway, so that's kind of the vibe that I feel from that. Also on this day too, we're going to have Mars in sextile to Juno, which is now direct in Scorpio. So Juno has been retrograde. Juno is, of course, ruling like committed partnerships, committed contracts. This could be business contracts, any type of committed partnership in some way, business, romantic, whatever, anything like that. In Scorpio, we're diving deep into these things. And there's a strong intensity, I was going to say intensifying, but there's a strong intensity towards these kinds of things in Scorpio, and looking at really what needs to come to the surface to be faced, to ultimately be transformed and changed. Of course, with that retrograde, that dealt with a lot of changes, maybe certain endings and things like that happened within certain partnerships. And with this direction forward now, we're moving forward through those changes and through those transformations that are occurring, etc. Of course, with Mars here in Virgo. On the South Node here, I'm kind of being drawn to that fact as letting go of what we once thought was practical and taking action to fix and change, or what it almost just feels like taking practical action in a new way. So with this sextile here, this opportunity to take practical action in a new way surrounding these partnerships and what it has been or needs to continue to be transformed and changed in those ways. All right, let me just tune into this Mars here in sextile to Juno. Yeah, so it's just already kind of like what I said. It's moving forward in terms of whatever has been transformed or transpired within these changes in these contractual partnerships, contracts, business contracts, etc., and moving forward in that in a very practical way. It almost kind of felt maybe a bit heartbreaking, like something has ended or was transformed that maybe you didn't think was going to, or something happened in that way, but now we're moving forward and we're taking that practical action, and you're kind of letting go of that old stuff that was transformed and changed and moving in that new direction, that new space. All right. We're also going to have Venus here in quincunx to Black Moon Lilith as well in Scorpio. Okay, Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, we're dealing with a very strong feminine energy here. And of course, Venus, also a feminine energy, is kind of what I feel from this. In Gemini, there could be some expressive energy. Let me just tune into this quincunx, this Venus quincunx, Black Moon Lilith. It feels like an integration of... yeah, it's almost like, okay, this very vocal feminine here in Gemini is this integration of this outcasted feminine energy, but it's like standing up for what's right. So this quincunx here is like, it almost feels like pushing against the grain. It's like you're doing something that is maybe like out of the ordinary. It feels like an out of the ordinary kind of a thing. I mean, a quincunx is dealing with energies that don't, like, it's a weird angle. And it can be really hard to deal with a quincunx, but it's like you're kind of doing something that other people might be like, what the fuck what are they doing? But it may seem weird or something, but it's like there's this expression of maybe standing up for what's right again, like I said, in terms of maybe where I've been outcasted in some way, but this feels like where maybe a certain feminine energy has felt outcasted. We could also where we felt outcasted in general. But there's a strong feminine energy here that's maybe standing up in terms of where people have been outcasted, etc. And this Black Moon Lilith just doesn't fucking give a shit about what other people think or about whatever is going on. And that's maybe why with this quincunx energy and this speaking out, that's why it seems so like it'd be like, what are they doing to like solve this issue? And it feels like this weird thing, but it's something that has to be done. And it's like, I don't give a fuck what other people think or that it's weird or whatever. We got to do it because we got to move on. We can't be continuing to be just shit on or left out or whatever. We're standing up for what's right and we're doing it in the way that we need to do it, whether you like it or not. Okay, that's kind of the vibe that I am getting from that, or the energy from that transit there as well. Okay, so that's all for Tuesday, July 15th. Let's move on to Wednesday the 16th here. Wednesday the 16th again. There's not much going on. I kind of felt for this week there wouldn't really be much going on besides Mercury going retrograde, but and we'll get to that. Anyway, so for Wednesday the 16th, we're going to have Venus here in quintile to Saturn retrograde. Okay. Yikes. Okay, let me just tune into this energy. Venus in quintile to Saturn retrograde. I can feel that sternness of Saturn. But Venus isn't going to take anyone's shit. That's kind of what this kind of feels like. There's that aspect of Saturn and Venus, but it's like, I'm not going to take your shit. I feel like with this Saturn and Aries energy, it's like that very like independent woman kind of a vibe. Again, there's a very strong... regarding like last week's astrology video and even coming in before that, there seems to be a very strong feminine vibe that is here, that is helping us, whether we see it physically or not. And I mean, this is a quintile, so this is happening like behind the scenes. Like we may not fully, it's like it's there, but we may not be paying attention to it, right? Or we may not fully see it, but it's there. It's like hiding out in the open kind of energy, okay? But like there's like a very strong feminine energy that is assisting us through this time, whether we realize it or not. Okay. So, excuse me, I feel like, so maybe there's a message to that coming through too. Okay, let me just tune into this again, that Venus quintile Saturn. It's almost like that, it almost feels like a bit of a restriction of that feminine too. But like I said, it's like she's not going to fucking put up with it. And it's like, I feel with that Saturn in Aries, especially retrograde, it's about standing up and setting those appropriate boundaries to our own independence, individuality, sovereignty, etc. And even with Neptune, they're having a passion for oneself too, right? So there's that aspect. It's like, I'm not putting up with your shit. I'm going to set those appropriate boundaries kind of thing. It's like that idea of Saturn that teaches through restriction. It's like, have you seen this yet? Have you noticed this yet? I'm restricting this. What are you going to do about it? And then that feminine energy is like, fuck you, I'm not going to put up with your shit. I'm going to set an appropriate boundary for my independence and to be myself, etc. That's really what that kind of feels like. Let's kind of tune into that quintile energy there surrounding that. It just feels feminine to me. It almost feels like it's not something that's going to happen out in the open either. It's not hidden, but it's not out in it directly, like in the spotlight. It's something that is like, maybe it's just someone that on the street that you see or something like that, and they kind of like, they're trying to like control you or be like a dick or restrict you or in some way. Like they're just trying to maybe be controlling towards you or something like that. You're just like, fuck you, no. Like, I'm going to do what I want. Like, who the hell are you? You're some stranger coming up to me thinking you can tell me what the fuck to do? Fuck off. Okay, that's kind of that energy of that vibe. It's not fully out in the open, but it kind of happens, and then you just walk away from it, right? Like, that's kind of what that energy feels like in that sense. Like, it's not something that'll be on the news or something, but it's just something that kind of happens in that way. And maybe there's people walking around you. Maybe somebody takes a look, or they don't care, or they keep walking. Like, it's that kind of a vibe, that kind of an energy. All right. So again, like I said, I'm describing the energy that I'm feeling from these, how that energy is directly affecting you is going to be unique to each individual person, etc. But this is like the general vibe, or the vibe that I'm feeling from these energies here. Okay, so let's move on to Thursday the 17th here. And of course, this is when we're going to have this last quarter moon, and also when Mercury is going to go retrograde. Now, this seems to be the most active day of the week so far. Mercury goes retrograde at 10:45 p.m. Central Standard Time, not Central Daylight Time. It's the same as Mountain Time right now, so 10:45 p.m. Mountain Time. So not till later in the day. But you can see here Mercury station, because it does, like this is set kind of close to that time, not really. But Mercury is kind of really stationed there at 15 degrees 34 minutes, and that's the same degree and minute that Mercury will, in fact, go retrograde. Now, while we're touching on this, let me maybe just, let's do this last quarter moon first before we jump into Mercury retrograde, since it's going to happen before Mercury goes retrograde. So let's just have a little look-see here. So we've got the moon in Aries on Chiron, and then the sun approaching the end of Cancer here. This, initially what I get is kind of like the cardinality of both of these signs, meaning stepping forward, taking action to move forward maybe in some way. It kind of feels a bit rough. Let me just kind of tune into this quarter moon here. I mean, we are in the sun is building an opposition to Pluto here, the out of sign opposition, so there could be something to that. There's also this out of sign trine building to Saturn and Neptune, so there's maybe like a harsher energy that is with this last quarter moon. Let me just feel into this last quarter moon energy, moon in Aries, sun in Cancer. It feels like that moon in Aries feels harsh. It feels harsh. I don't know why exactly. Maybe it's because it's on Chiron, but it feels very harsh. It's like a very negative masculine type of energy that's like being very strict. And then there's the sun in Cancer, which I feel like it's feeling very strong and maybe a bit angry too. It's like they're at odds with each other. It's almost like there's a nurturing vibe that is pushing against this stern. What it almost feels like that I'm getting here is like a couple fighting, maybe like a middle-aged couple that have been like maybe together for a while, and it's like the husband is being like really strict and like, I almost want to say treating the wife like shit, and then the wife is just like getting just like, oh, I'm not going to put up with you. Like, why am I putting up with this? Like, that's the vibe that it feels like to me. Okay. But what I think I mean by that cardinal energy is that square, not only is it their cardinal signs, but that square is pushing for that resolution. So it's coming up to say like, oh, we got to deal with this. Okay, there's maybe like that intensity. Like I said, there's these out of sign aspects. So we're due to this trine to Saturn as well as this opposition to Pluto that is building here. So maybe there's an intensity regarding this restriction and maybe this transformation and progress that needs to occur here as well. And that could also relate to this cardinal energy of moving forward in some way. But yeah, it feels very strongly like there's an aspect of maybe wounding that exists here. Like I said, with that kind of like negative masculine like restriction or saying whatever towards kind of that feminine energy, but it's at odds here. It's like this needs to be dealt with in some way. It's like something that needs to be dealt with in some way with that quarter moon regarding that type of energy. All right. Okay, let me tap into now this Mercury retrograde here. Interestingly enough, as Mercury goes retrograde, squaring into Black Moon Lilith and that Juno energy that is now progressing forward. So this could deal with this idea of making progress as well on how we've transformed, committed partnerships, relationships, contracts, could even be soul contracts, etc. Moving forward on that. A new review and looking at this kind of, or maybe more highlighting that kind of energy as we're in Leo here, so we're highlighting that kind of stuff. We've got the sextile to Venus here as well as this is occurring. There's also this trine to Uranus' south node too in Sagittarius, so letting go in terms of this idea of expansion too, so that maybe I'm hearing kind of beliefs, maybe letting go of old beliefs surrounding where we need to change and move forward in some ways too. Or with this sextile to Venus, this could be highlighting aspects of relationships, communication within relationships, this expression within relationships in some way, and how we deal with that and our uniqueness of expression. So initially, yesterday I was getting some stuff through regarding this Mercury retrograde in terms of how it could be a bit chaotic, as we have Uranus here in Mercury's sign of Gemini. There's also the south node in Mercury's other sign of Virgo as well. So we're dealing with maybe a lot of changes and letting go. So, and what I mean by maybe a bit chaotic is because Uranus is here. Uranus can be very unpredictable energy. It could be kind of stuff happening out of nowhere. It could be weird. It could be really weird, especially because Uranus, rules Aquarius. There's that weirdness. And with Mercury retrograde, with things that can go wrong and whatever that, it could be really happening out of nowhere more than what would be considered maybe normal during a normal Mercury retrograde, or it could feel a bit more chaotic in terms of that retrograde energy. Of course, and with Mercury in Leo, this is really bringing it to the forefront and highlighting that type of energy and expressing it out there. This could also deal with as well, especially as maybe it relates to our relationships, the expression of our authentic self. Especially since Uranus here is in the sign of Gemini, Mercury's sign, and Mercury is in Leo, dealing with that aspect of self-expression as well. And of course, with Gemini, that throat chakra energy, that communication, expression, which also deals with our expressiveness, how we speak, express ourselves, express, our emotions, speak about them, etc., like that. In terms of that expressiveness, and then how it relates to Uranus and Aquarius in terms of our own uniqueness and where we fit in, etc., fit in or don't fit in or whatever, but honoring and respecting that aspect of uniqueness. Again, with Uranus' South Node in Sagittarius, there may be letting go of old beliefs and understanding where we need to move forward in terms of our authenticity and our authentic self, and through this retrograde, realizing a lot of those things along the way. So it could be a bit chaotic, relates to maybe where we need to make progress, change through self-expression and all of that, etc. And of course, change relating to maybe certain committed partnerships, contracts that have been reworked, emphasizing maybe where we've been outcast and transforming those things and learning to express our true authenticity and maybe not give a fuck about some certain shit anymore as we move forward here. So now with all that being said here, let me just tune into this overall Mercury retrograde energy. See if we can get this. So again, it still feels like there could be like chaotic stuff. I know there's been a lot of stuff going on in the world in a lot of different places, and I feel like dealing with that is still going to be a highlighted thing. It almost feels like stuff that maybe we weren't aware of that now we're being aware of as it relates to that Uranus and Gemini energy, maybe that kind of an awakening vibe that exists there. Speaking about things, talking about things, bringing it to the light, bringing it to the forefront again on where progress needs to be made is really what that feels like. And like I said, it could feel weird and chaotic and not like maybe an average Mercury retrograde, in the sense that there's that weirdness of that Uranian energy that is because it's in Mercury's sign of Gemini, right? Yeah, it just... let me feel a bit more here. Mercury retrograde. Yeah, it's really just where we need to make progress and change and just deal with stuff. Like, we're going to be made aware of a lot of stuff and surrounding aspects of changes, self-expressions, all that stuff that I've basically already said. It's going to be a bit weird, but it's going to be, everything is going to be highlighted. It's going to be like, it's almost like this, well, fuck. It's like this energy, like I just said, like, well, fuck. And it's like, you're just going to have to change and deal with it. Like, that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting with that. Now, also on this day too, we're going to have this Venus now in this quintile to Neptune. And then Mars in sesquisquare to Pluto. Okay. I feel like that maybe that Mars, because it's in Mercury's other sign of Virgo too, in sesquisquare to Pluto, in Uranus' sign of Aquarius, and with Pluto being retrograde, highlighting those places where we need to change and take action towards doing that. A sesquisquare is stuff that can't be swept under the rug any longer, and that could be, again, relating to this Mercury retrograde as well. At least as Mercury begins to go retrograde, but usually that energy is highlighted throughout that time period. All right, so let me just tune into this Mars sesquisquare Pluto here first. Mars in Virgo. Yeah, so that Pluto in Aquarius is really pushing for that transformation and change. And this is happening from a very practical kind of a sense. Again, I'm feeling somewhat of a retro vibe with this, maybe going back to, it feels like the 70s. I don't know why I keep getting some kind of weird vibes coming up with, like, last week was the 90s, this week is, it just feels like dealing with things that have just needed to be dealt with maybe for so long. I mean, that was like 50 years ago almost. Like, that's kind of wild that maybe things have been left for that long, but it just feels like, or maybe there's an old school vibe, a way of how we have to deal with things that is maybe needs to be done in a way of which maybe we've forgotten and how to deal with it. In terms of looking at the details and that kind of stuff, looking back at maybe how we used to do something, and maybe that's how we need to transform and change, take action regarding those details to make progress in a new direction. That could be something that's surrounding that. Let me just tune into this again, that Mars in sesqui-square to Pluto retrograde. It feels the action-oriented energy of that Virgo, in order to like take action to fix something, that Mars in Virgo, it feels regretful. It's like moving forward in a new direction, almost like after a breakup, after a change, something like that. And now it's shifting and transforming, and we have to make progress in that way. It can't be swept under the rug any longer. It's like we have to do it. We have to deal with it. I don't know why there's kind of a retro vibe to that. Maybe it's just through the kind of analogy that they're giving me that I'm getting that. I don't really know. But that's kind of the energy of that. Now with his Venus in quintile to Neptune, initially I just went to go try to feel into this, and it feels very like feminine to me, very Neptunian. So let me just tune into that more. Venus quintile Neptune retrograde. This could be very well dealing with a lot of hidden aspects, intuitively, spiritually, emotionally. Maybe not so much. It just feels very like hidden. It's like hidden stuff. It's like when spirit is guiding you and helping you, you don't know it until it kind of hits you in the face. You don't know it until you see something in reality that comes up and you're like, oh fuck. And then you kind of look back, wait, I did this, I felt to do this, I did that, whoa. And then all the pieces kind of fall together. It's like that. It's like asking for that guidance or asking for whatever, and then you go to do certain things unknowingly, realizing that maybe you're being guided to do it, or you're doing this and that or whatever that maybe feels out of the ordinary, and then all of a sudden this thing shows up, or you do this thing and you're like, oh my god, this has solved this problem that I asked about like 3 weeks ago or something, or this has solved this, and then I realized because I did this and this that it led to this, and it's like, holy fuck, what the hell? It's like you were guided the whole time. It's like this background feminine energy that has been sitting there, that has been almost like guiding you this whole time, and then you're like, whoa. It's like that aspect of hidden, and of course with that quintile, that stuff that gets worked on behind the scenes. That's the vibe of this energy. So whether that's happened and we're aware of this now, or whether that's currently happening like behind the scenes in that way, maybe, that now, and then eventually we're going to realize that, because this feels like I said, that there's a strong feminine energy here, but maybe with this Gemini stuff, bringing it to our awareness, of which has been occurring behind the scenes, ultimately in helping us, right? And that feminine energy, that creative energy, that giving birth, that kind of that vibe that is helping us through this. Okay, let me see if I can just tune into that again. It's feminine energy. That Venus and quintile to Neptune. Yeah, it's similar to just what I've already said. It feels very, very like that hidden energy behind the scenes type of stuff. It's what I've already described. All right, so that's Thursday the 17th. Let's move on here to Friday the 18th. And the only major thing here looks like we have this Mercury, which is now retrograde, in sextile to Venus. Okay, there may be a relationship thing highlighted here. So let me just tune into this here, this Mercury retrograde now, sextile to Venus. It feels very much going over old ground surrounding relationships, people. And it's like the expression of that. It's like things are being brought to the forefront, maybe either how we express within those relationships or the expression of the relationships, the showing of the relationships, how people see us in that relationship. Not really that, but it's like highlighting these things. Okay, let me just tune into that again. Mercury retrograde sextile Venus. It's almost like communicating and talking about things that have been left. It's like a movie scene where, like something happened in a relationship. There was an argument or an ending or a fallout, but both parties, they're saying stuff, but you, as the viewer watching the movie, you can know that there are other things happening with each person that they're not telling it, that each of them doesn't know, or they're not telling each other. And that this energy is like the scene where the anger has diffused, they've let it all out, and they've maybe been separated for a little while, and then they come back together to finally talk about it and discuss things, and that's when things finally come out into the open as to what really was going on and what's going on with that kind of stuff. And then you're just like, oh, they're beginning to talk about it, and then like, I didn't realize this about you, I didn't realize that, whatever. And then you kind of reach like this common ground in some way. You're like, okay, like I understand that now. And then maybe you reconcile through that, right? Instead of, just letting that whatever blow up or that crash out that happened and then just walk away. It's like, no, you're coming back to kind of like reconcile and discuss and realize that neither one of you really fully understood what was going on, and now you kind of feel like shit or feel like you shouldn't have said those things or whatever. That's the energy that I'm getting with this Mercury retrograde in sextile to Venus here in Gemini. All right, so that's all for Friday the 18th. Let's move on to Saturday the 19th here. Interestingly, the first thing I'm going to hit on here is this Sun at 27 degrees of Cancer in square to Chiron at 27 degrees of Aries. So now, I feel like that's kind of hitting on what I talked about with that Mercury retrograde and sextile to Venus as well. So let me just kind of tune in now to this Sun square Chiron. Yeah, it feels like on a similar vibe to that Friday energy, in terms of that wounds to ourselves, where we've been angry, where we've expressed and maybe hurt in some way, that is now coming up somehow. Let me just... Sun in Cancer. I can maybe get like to nurture it, but hold on. What it feels like again is that strong feminine energy, like wanting to discuss and reconcile and deal with it. Not in a negative way, but in like, okay, we need to maturely face this kind of a way. And nurture it and deal with it and deal with that in that mature, it feels like a mature feminine energy that's like, okay, let's deal with this. Deal with these emotional things, deal with this kind of stuff, and so we can begin to move forward or carry it forward or just like deal with it and reconcile. Is kind of what it feels like through whatever that wounding was, the self-identity of each other, whatever. But it very much feels like it relates to this Mercury retrograde in sextile to Venus that happened on the previous day. Because you have to remember that this Sun square Chiron would have been still building and active as well on that Friday too. We're also going to have Venus here in quincunx to Juno, now direct. So, yeah, we could be dealing with whatever that reworking was, of those contracts, partnerships, etc. through this expression, and now it's like there's this weirdness in terms of maybe how we have to deal with this and face and come to terms and reconcile and do all this kind of stuff. Let me tune into this Venus in quincunx to Juno. It feels like moving forward in a new direction that may seem weird and odd because you never thought that maybe this contract or partnership would have to change in some way. Venus again feels like a feminine energy that's not really, it's doing it, but it's almost like reluctantly. It's like, I don't want to have to do this, but I have to do this kind of a thing. It's like I don't want to have this conversation, but we're at this place now where we have to have this conversation, where we have to move forward in terms of what happened, what fell apart, what was transformed, what came to the surface, all of that stuff. And now we need to discuss it and try to deal with this kind of thing. So it's that kind of a vibe. All right. Also, too, we're going to have Jupiter here and quintile to Chiron. So I feel like this is emphasizing and highlighting this feminine aspect of this energy even more, but let me tune in here. So Jupiter and quintile to Chiron. I feel like it's highlighting strongly that emotional wound as it relates to our identity, our self, etc. We want our own independence, identity, all of that, and we felt wounded emotionally in some way through whatever relationship stuff. I don't know why this is really relationshipy. But there's this expansion of this emotional stuff to expand on these wounds, to deal with it, to bring it to the surface, to deal with it, to talk about it, to bring it to light. Like I said, it's bringing it to light with this Mercury retrograde type of energy. It feels like almost like relationship focused, but it's highlighting these things. I mean, Leo can be like that romance stuff, but it doesn't really feel like that. It feels like this masculine energy that's coming from the heart, but not necessarily from the masculine. It actually feels more feminine with this Jupiter and all this other stuff that's happening, to be able to want to talk about and deal with these emotional things and reconcile and all of that kind of stuff that has happened previously. Like it's a retrograde, it's going over these old things, it's dealing with this kind of stuff. That's really what it feels like there's a strong relationship aspect to this, interestingly enough. All right, anyway, that's Saturday the 19th. Let me just bring it back to myself here. Let me just see if I can tune in to just an overall, let's maybe see like if on a general, maybe like individual level, not global level, what this is going to be for this week. What would that energy feel like for this week, if I can get anything from that? Again, it's a feminine energy that just feels like dealing with shit. It's just dealing with shit. Like it's a very strong feminine energy. You got to take action and just deal with this shit. It's like it's feminine, whether it's behind the scenes, whether we're seeing it or not, I don't know. It just feels like feminine energy. It's just like she's kind of mad, but she's like, I just gotta fuck it. Like, okay, we're gonna deal with this. We got to do this. We got to take care of this. All this stuff. Like she's just doing it herself. Okay, that's what it feels like. She's just doing it herself, right? And that could be the feminine aspect within all of us, maybe feminine figures in our lives, etc. But that's just how that energy feels to me, in that way. Okay, and then maybe on a global scale, how the overall energy of this week on a global scale. It feels like fucking like whatever this fucked up chaos that we are constantly dealing with all the time, politically and otherwise. It just feels like it's all bullshit. That's what it feels like to me. Like it's all bullshit. Like all this crazy shit is happening, but it's all just, a lot of it's just bullshit. It's like smoke and mirrors. Like we're not like, let me just continue to tune in here. Global energy for this week. Yeah, just what I feel is like it's the bullshitness of the mainstream media. And like all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world, excuse me, so pay attention to that. the bullshitness of the mainstream media. As I'm saying that, I'm being kind of drawn to that Neptune retrograde as well, that maybe a lot of that stuff that's hidden, maybe we're coming in to realize the bullshitness of that media type of energy, and that we're not being maybe told properly what is going on, or it's being manipulated or something in some way. Even if we're not realizing that, I think the overall vibe is that in general what we're going to see in the world is, or what's being thrown at us in terms of, we're being shown specifically what they want to see is going on in the world, despite what maybe actually be going on. And that's maybe what I get through like that bullshitness of the mainstream media. So, and through that, what I would say is ultimately just use your own discernment when looking at things and understanding things, trust your own intuition, etc. I mean, you should be doing that already anyway, because going within and finding the answers within yourself is the only way you're really going to get to the truth. You're not going to get a lot of that from very many external forces in this world, especially through mainstream media. All right, anyway, that's all I've got for this week. If you've made it this far in the video, leave a purple heart in the comments so that I know you're a real one. Thank you all for watching. Have a great week. Take care. I'll hope to see you all in the next video. Bye for now. Bye.